Happy Valentine's Day. Hey, everybody. How are ya? Here we are on I was going to say, it's like, the day of love, but I know it's mixed for so many people, right? Including myself. But I do wish you a happy Valentine's Day. And I would love it if you would comment in the thread to let me know that you're here. And this is our second Ask Me Anything. And I was thinking, you tell me if this would be more helpful to you and if it would make this 20 to 30 minutes of time together more appealing to you. Um, I was thinking that uh, Ask Me Anything, right? I mean, it's very broad, obviously. Ask me anything. But I'm wondering if it would be helpful if there was a prompt each week, like, let's say the next time it's ask me anything about agents, or ask me anything about commercial copy, or ask me anything about recording gear, things like that. Is that more helpful? I would love to know that. So if you're watching this live, let me know. And if you're watching it on the record, right? You know what I mean to say, when it's posted, um, still just pop your opinion in the comments. I would really um, appreciate that. That would be very helpful to me. So, of course, today, being Valentine's Day and all, um, I want to talk to you about love. I do. I want to talk to you about love. And hey, Yvonne, how are you? Um, and that doesn't mean that you can't ask me anything. You still can ask me anything that you want. It doesn't have to be about love either, but it could be. I mean, love and voiceover, you know. But but of course, that's what I'm thinking about today because it's Valentine's Day. Um, my dog is with me. You can, oh, can't quite see her. Sorry, she's out of the picture. But you might hear her because she's snoring. Let's talk about love. I love my dog. Um, she's been a long time coming because she's a difficult dog, but we finally simpatico. Um, so, yeah, let's talk about love. I hear a lot of people talk about how much they love this business, which is interesting to me because I never really thought about it. I never really thought about voiceover in terms of loving the business. It is just a business. It is the world of acting. It is the world of communication. It's certainly the world of recording, right? It's all those things. I never really thought about having love for it. But when I teach, the thing I think I realize that I love are words and the magical confluence of words and music and picture. That I love. I love the confluence, right? I love how they all come together and they have the capacity to create something really moving or funny or evoke any number of feelings, right? I think that is magical. And so I think what I love ultimately is the creative confluence. And that's what makes me excited when I go into the booth and I see a piece of copy that is really well written. It sort of makes me salivate, like, oh, I want to be a part of that, you know? Um, I'll tell you the other thing that I love of late um, is this really remarkable online community of voice actors, um, and the expansiveness of the world of voiceover, um, and how it extends through conferences, voiceover conferences. Of course, you know, when I grew up in voiceover, there were no conferences. There was no relating to people across the country. You were just in the market you're in, and you relate to the people who are sitting in the lobby of the particular agency that you were represented by. And I definitely love that. I love that. I still have some of my best friends are people I met at the lobby at SBV Talent and Sandy Schnar Talent, which is now AVO Talent, but that's what it was back then. Um, so there's definitely a lot of love there, right? Um, and I would I would love to um, I would love to switch it up a little bit um, in terms of how we think about love as it regards this business. Um, because if you know me well and you've seen some of the things that I have posted now and again, you will know that it is my belief that you were not put on this planet to do voiceover. I don't care how fantastic your voice is. I don't care how successful you are. I don't care how many characters you've created. I don't care how much money you've made. Your purpose is not to do voiceover. And I contend that your purpose in being on the planet is to love, which is why I wanted to talk about this today on Valentine's Day. That's your purpose. Because far, far, far too many of us, most of us, I would say, do not make a good living doing voiceover. We do not have bookings rolling in every single day or every single week or every single month or even every year. We don't. And yet we continue at it and we strive, we keep going, right? And so there are plenty of years where there's nothing to love about voiceover. And there's nothing that would lead one to think that they were put on this planet to do it, right? And so it brings me back to my very firm belief that, again, we're put on the planet to love. And so that would be my challenge to you to think of your life and your career, certainly as it applies to what you do in voiceover, that really your aim and your goal is to love in some capacity everybody who crosses your path. And that means your um, your colleagues, that means your producers, it means your director, it means your engineer, it means your coaches, um, it means your agents, it means all of those people. And and when we do that, our world gets better. Our own little, the inside of our own little world gets better. And when we act in love toward each other, it's far, far, far more likely that we will receive a whole lot more love from others. And there's nothing like being edified by being loved. So, um, so that is my challenge to you in voiceover land today. And I'll tell you this as well. I will add on to that. And then, of course, if anybody has a question, please just chime right in. And it can be on any topic. Um, we spend a lot of time alone in voiceover, don't we? We're in our booths by ourselves. And there certainly are a lot of times when we feel like perhaps the people around us who aren't in voiceover don't understand us and don't understand the very particular struggle that we have in this crazy thing that we do for a living. And so we can feel pretty isolated. And if we're isolated, how is it that we extend love to other people? How do we do that? And I would say that you have to remember to be um, kind and loving to yourself as well. Um, I really hate the term self-love. Just, it's antithetical to my faith. It just sort of makes me cringe. But I will say this, like, I do understand the intent behind that phrase, and the way I have sort of managed to characterize it for myself to make it more palatable, and I think it means the same thing, is that I owe myself kindness and I owe myself respect. So self-respect, self-care, those things, those all equal love, right? Love toward love toward ourselves. So we have to be willing to extend those things to ourselves as well. We have to be kind to ourselves when things aren't going well. We have to remember to edify ourselves when things aren't going well. When we didn't do the work that we could have, um, if we if we forget to um, if we forget to turn things in, if we miss a deadline, if somebody comes back and says, yeah, you need to redo that, like we really have to extend love to ourselves in that regard, right? So that we can carry on, right? Um, Yvonne, if you're living in love, why would you exclude yourself? Um, I don't. I don't think of it necessarily as excluding myself. I don't. I think it's. I think the term self-love meant something different in the 70s when I grew up. So it's like a little, you know, there's that. But also, I think that the focus is for me, and it's a complex understanding, and people understand it differently, and words mean different things to different people. So this in no way is any sort of chastisement against anyone for whom that phrase is helpful and beneficial. Um, I think I just prefer the term. It's not so much the action, right? So I do not exclude myself from the action of it, right? I think I just use a different term. Again, I use self care and self kindness and self compassion, if you will. And all of those things amount, I think, to the same thing: um, attention, kindness, forgiveness, understanding. All those things equal love to me. So I hope does that help clarify, Yvonne? Yvonne, with the first question of the day. Thank you very much. Um, and I don't know. I think again, it's a matter of interpretation of the phrase, because I think we have a tendency toward. I think we have what's the phrase I want to say? I think we have a tendency toward selfishness, and so I think I like language that steers me away from that. That's really it. But again, for other people, that's not a difficult phrase. It just is for me. So, um, does that answer your question? I hope so. Hi, John. Happy Valentine's Day to you. Um, I'm glad that you're here. It's Tuesday. Um, so I would just sum that up, my thoughts about love on Valentine's Day, um, about what your true purpose is, right? Your true purpose isn't to do voiceover. Your true purpose is to love, and that includes loving yourself and being kind to yourself, which I think is a necessity uh, when we work in such an isolated field, right? Um, so those are really my thoughts for the day. Anything? Anything? John, do you have a question for me in any topic whatsoever? Anything? We could continue talking about love if you have questions about that. Yvonne, it wasn't really about the phrase and more about remembering to include yourself in your love for the world, the energy of love. But thanks. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think I totally get that, and yes, one ought to absolutely. Um, John, you sure it'll be Thursday tomorrow? No, no, tomorrow's Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. Um, yeah, I think that is true, and I guess I've always Yvonne. I guess I've always felt like um, I guess I've always felt and learned. I think I've been taught that and maybe I have this wrong. I don't know. Um, but I have been taught and been raised with the idea that I if that I love first, right? And it's if you greet if you greet someone in the world and they're cranky as hell, and you know, if I've got the capacity, I extend first, right? To offer someone. I mean, I had this happen to me the other day. Um, I had to have a blood draw, and I went to Quest, and man, the woman who was drawing my blood was cranky as ever. Like, never looked me in the eye, uh, never smiled at me. It was just question after question after question, very perfunctory. And I was chipper as could be, and maybe that irritated her, I don't know. But I was like, "Good morning. How are you?" And she was like, "Can you tell me your name?" "Yeah." "And your date of birth?" You know, all the questions, right? "Your address? Can you confirm your address?" All those things. Um, and I just kept answering cheerfully, you know. And I can't remember what it was, but I just, you know, I maintained my countenance, you know. And at the end of the blood draw, you know, I was getting myself together, and it was cold outside. I had my jacket and my umbrella with me. And as I got up to leave, she said to me, "Be sure to put your jacket on. It's cold out there." And I thought to myself, I got her. I got her. She wished me well, right? She wished me well. And I think that it's incumbent upon me to walk through the world like that, right? It's like that's a piece of what I mean, you know, that's my purpose in life, is to love other people. And I will say this, Yvonne, as it relates to that. Um, I have been spending a lot of time learning how to care for myself, right? And learning what I want and what's important to me. And all of that is a form of loving oneself, right? And so I had the capacity. I had the capacity to approach her in that way. I had a full heart, right? And so if your heart's not full, you know, it's hard to do that. So I do think that they go hand in hand. Um, I think if we focus on loving ourselves first, we may we 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 can easily get stuck there, and that's the extent of it, and then we don't extend ourselves outward. So I think that's the it's a two step. It's a two step. It's a little dance. It's a two step. So anyway, um, I think we're simpatico, Yvonne. I do, like we've always been. um, I think that I will let you go. No questions today, except Yvonne's, which was awesome. Um, so let me know if you have any other questions. And you know what? If you are coming to this again on the posted record after we've gone live, um, ask your question then, and I will come back and I will revisit. Um, what, Yvonne? What did you say? Yes, indeed. Sorry, I'm scrolling. John. I'm struggling with finding my most appropriate niches. I need to focus my efforts better. Knowing how I really sound is a struggle, and I have found that coaches and peers often default to being kind with their feedback rather than honestly helpful. Do you have any ideas for self-assessment? Yes, I would like to change your focus altogether about what you sound like, because I think that is probably the least important thing in voiceover, which I know doesn't make sense, but I think it's true. I would ask, if I were in your shoes, I would ask myself, what do I like doing? Uh, and and then I'd start there, and then I would coach specifically for that genre, but I would find a coach um, that has has an approach to voiceover that is relationship oriented, that recognizes that we are always in conversation with another person and that the relationship is the focal point of the process. And um, so that's going to include questions like, who am I talking to? Where am I? What do I want? What did they just say to me that elicits this response in me? What do I want that person to know? Right? Those kinds of things. And when we focus on relationship, we take our focus off of our voice, and we it's kind of the magic thing, right? We become more engaged, we sound more authentic because we're actually engaged in a relationship, if you will. And that, it requires obviously the use of our imagination there, and that's why I think knowledge of particular acting tips is important. You don't have to have an acting background, and you don't have to have an acting degree or anything like that. But I think some basic principles about relationship oriented dialogue, even when we're doing something that ju- is is announcer copy, um, or is a narration for something, we're still talking to someone. There's still a relationship there, right? So I think when, and it's obviously the easiest thing to do when it's an actual piece of dialogue copy, but I don't remember the last time I read a piece of dialogue copy with another person, you know? So, um, so it doesn't even matter in a certain sense what the genre is, the principle still applies. And so that's why you have to ask yourself, what do I like? What do I want to do? Right? And then focus it there, and then find coaching that makes sense for that. Does that There's a reason I put sound in quotes. My focus of late has been in getting in touch with my inner self and becoming more authentic in the given context. However, after I do that, I still have a specific sound, which probably lends to some niches more than others. Well, and again, I would say this: your focus of late has been on getting in touch with my inner self. And I would say the more we focus on our inner self, the less engaged we are in the copy, because we have to focus on the person we're talking to. Um, Now, you may come across a piece of copy where the person is speaking to themselves, and a monologue, an interior monologue, right? I have a piece of this copy for Nike in my coaching group where it's the voice in their head, so they're talking to themselves, right? Um, so again, all voiceover is relational. It's all relational. Even when we're talking to ourselves, it's our relationship with ourselves, right? So it's a piece of why I no longer advise people to think of the thing they said. Think of a line to precede the first line of the copy. What? Why do that? Why would that make it sound um, any more realistic? What I instruct my coaching clients to do is think of what the person you're talking to just said to you that elicits this response from you, right? And there again, I'm not focused on myself. I'm focused on the other person and answering their question. And that's the way I get the most authentic read, because I'm actually engaged in the conversation, right? Does that make sense? So the idea that I'm going to come up with a line that I've said right before the copy starts, it's kind of moot to me. I have heard that and used it, for a really long time, for as long as I can remember. Um, but I'm not sure how effective it is. I'm sort of realizing that, like, maybe that's not as effective as I have thought it to be. And I guess that too is where it just requires more engagement of my imagination for me to put myself in the circumstance with someone and ask what they said to me just prior that elicits the response I'm about to give them. Um, and yeah, focusing on what you like, yes, and focusing on the other, yeah, I do. Like we really have to get out of this idea that our voices are the thing. Our voices are a thing, but it's kind of further down on the list of what's required of us as voice actors. I know people with the most average sounding voices. They're not they're not unique sounding, if you will, although I recognize everybody's unique. But at first listen, it's like, okay, so the sound of your voice, all right, but who are you? What is it that animates your voice, right? That's that's a different question. And who are you in relationship to others? Because we're all different depending upon who we're relating to. I sound different with my girlfriends than I do with my daughter, with my brother, with my dad. I sound different. I approach each of them differently. So my voice takes on different qualities, if you will, in a certain sense, right? I mean, we all have this baseline of what our vocal cords sound like when they come together, right? But but in terms of what animates a person's voice, right, changes according to the relationship. So there you go. Anything else? That was a really, really good question, John. Like truly. And I think it, it's pivotal. It's pivotal in voiceover, understanding how we approach copy and that it's about the other. So um, I am going to leave it at that. We've been here 27 minutes. Um, Thank you for listening to me preach about love. And I do hope that you have a beautiful Valentine's Day. And and I know for myself, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go and get a I'm gonna go and get a massage. That's what I'm gonna do. And then maybe I'll stop by Trader Joe's and get one of those absolutely giant bars of chocolate and maybe just have that for dinner. Um, I really, really love milk chocolate. It's my favorite, but honestly, I could eat the whole thing. Dark chocolate, I prefer it less, but I'll eat it because it's there, but I'll just eat it in smaller bites. So maybe I'll do that out of self-respect, Yvonne. All right. I hope you have a fantastic Valentine's Day. Um, Thank you for being a part of my life. And from the bottom of my heart, I love you all. Um, and if you have any further questions this week, just go ahead and put them in the comments, and I will get to them. And if not, I'll see you next Tuesday. Um, and I think, John and Yvonne, if you guys, I know you came in just a smidge after my little opening thing. Um, but I did ask if it would be more helpful, if I provided a prompt for each week of Ask Me Anything. Like Ask Me Anything agents, Ask Me Anything commercial copy, Ask Me Anything, blah, blah, whatever it might be. So let me know if you think that would be helpful, and then we can modify it. So, hey, Susan, wishing you the best today and always. My question is, how long does it take to see change in ourselves? Oh, goodness. In others, how long before they notice the change in us? This past year, my confidence was shaken. I got shot down repeatedly for the last 1.5 years on what I thought was the true, authentic, transparent me. That's what everyone said they wanted. I think I was gaslighted. I can't really seem to gain the traction back or the favor of some. It's very disheartening and often lonely in this loving and generous profession. I'm obviously floundering at the VO level, but on the personal side, I'm a happy girl. Um, well, first of all, um, Susan, thriving on the personal side is 1,000 times more important than thriving in the voiceover world. I'll just say that. And I know that's not an answer to your question. Um, I think when it comes to change and when it comes to rebounding, right, when you've been knocked down and you are trying to get back up, I think we cannot focus on the end result of when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? When will the change come? When will, like, it's the hardest part, I think, of getting knocked down and then, writing, yourself, writing your ship. And I think really you have to continue to be yourself. Anything less it deprives the world. Um, and um, and then I think when that happens to us, when that happens to you, when it happens to me, I think we just keep our shoulder to the wheel and keep at the work. Keep at the work. That's what I know to do. Um, I think if you can surround yourself with one or two or three um, of your colleagues that you feel safe with, with whom you can create a posse, if you will, um, for encouragement, a place to go with your frustrations. That's really helpful. And I really mean, people in the business, right, who really understand the the particular things about this business. I mean, it's good to have those kinds of relationships uh, in our day to day life that doesn't involve voiceover. But I think it's also um, good to have one or two, three people with whom you can bring these kinds of things and who can just say, "I'm with you. I'm with you. I see you." And that way, it's less frustrating in that process of just keeping our shoulder to the wheel and keeping at the work, right? Um, there's no there's no telling when. I don't think there's any prescribed time. I think there's only the doing of good work and keeping at it. So that would be my perspective on that. I hope that that's helpful. Um, and and honestly, I don't know if you were here for it, Susan, but I just want to repeat, and then we'll go. I just want to repeat that you were not put on this planet to do voiceover. You were put on this planet to love others, and and you can do that. We're That's true of anybody in any profession, anywhere, anytime, and nobody's ever going to change my mind about it. So that's the mission. And then whatever profession you choose, and in this case, we've all chosen voiceover to do the work. That's it. And the work is auditioning, and the work is growing, and the work is learning, and bookings are the frosting on the cake. So there you go. All right. Again, love you all. Happy Valentine's Day. Take good care of the people you love and yourselves. All right. Ciao.